What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're all having a great day, but if you're feeling a little bit down, things are about to look up as we dive into the amazing life of Fred Rogers in the new documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Directed by Morgan Neville, who has a dense resume of documentary work, this one explores the life, the career, and legacy of Fred Rogers and his work on PBS's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that spanned from 1968 to the year 2000. More than that, though, this documentary captures his philosophies on life, his intentions for the show, the world issues that were happening throughout his 32 years on the air, and his thoughts on just the changing of society, in particular in children's television programming later on in his life. Now, I'm on the older side, so growing up, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was around. I loved all of my cartoons, but the Neighborhood of Make-Believe did have some lasting memories in my childhood, and until watching this one and going back and seeing all the archival footage from the decades past, I had no idea how many subconscious memories and how much nostalgia this show actually gave me. The structure of the documentary itself is on the procedural side. It's a routine progression of a subject's beginnings, midlife progression, and later in life exploration, but I think it was honestly perfect for this story. Fred Rogers' life tells itself, I think. The substance you take in is all that's really needed, and I felt Neville knew that, and he brought all the archival footage together perfectly to let it tell the story. 32 years on television is a lot of episodes to comb through, but I think all the poignant, the monumental, and culturally impactful moments throughout his run are excellently captured. He began his national run on PBS in 1968, and immediately he dove into the Vietnam War, explaining it to children from a ground level, telling them what was happening and providing them insight to the things they might have been hearing their parents talk about. He confronted racism head-on with a subtle bluntness that was perplexing to a few and inspirational to even more during times of segregation when outlets were just reporting acts of pure racism and civil unrest. Mr. Rogers was teaching kids that all are to be treated equally, and he was doing so in the unassuming way he was perfect at, visually, so that kids could connect with it. In the late 60s, when PBS was on the verge of collapse, Rogers spoke before the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Communications, along with many others, in an attempt to get some funding for the public television system. To keep it short, it was not looking good. Many had already spoken, and the funds were all but lost. Then Fred Rogers took the microphone with a blend of nervousness and confidence. He talked from the heart, primarily because the board was already tired of the endless written narrations being just simply read off, and after a few minutes, PBS had their funding, and hearing Rogers' vision of teaching children about life, fitting in, and believing in oneself was something that even the entire committee believed in. This documentary covers these and so many other powerful moments throughout the show. It also edits in loads of archival footage of Mr. Rogers just talking on camera, behind the scenes, about his values, his ideals, his motivations, as well as his worries, which I thought was fantastic because it allowed Mr. Rogers himself to tell his own story in this documentary rather than a series of outside individuals in interview form. This one really delivers long stretches of old archival footage with commentary from outsiders coming in to add insight to it, which I thought was extremely well edited and timely throughout. I had many memories of the show growing up, and this documentary was able to pour in a lot of substance to fill in information on things I didn't know, and it also expanded on things I heard very little about, which made it extremely thought-provoking and fascinating from start to finish. He covered so many different topics on the show over the years, and he was able to really build a fundamental thinking for children that was based on ethics and equality and honesty, and Rogers did so by not hiding from unconventional topics that were for children, such as death and tragedy, among many others. But something very interesting was also how this one captured during many times on the show how Mr. Rogers was kind of working through some of his own childhood issues, which I thought was both very intriguing and insightful, as it brought some substance to his passion for wanting to teach children and the topics he wanted to teach them about. I was expecting just another routine documentary about an influential person's life, yet it turned out to be a very emotional trip down memory lane about a show that had so much more history than I had realized, led by a man that was both perfect for his time but at the same time ahead of his time in some respects. The world needs a Mr. Rogers right now, but in the skeptical society we live in, I don't think we would get the same result. I think people would always be looking for his angle and trying to find a crack in their persona. Added with the landscape of children's television and studio revenue, it's hard to see the needed viewership coming in to make it a success, which is very unfortunate. But we will always have 32 years worth of episodes to remember the legacy of Mr. Rogers. Go get some seasons on Blu-ray or find it on a streaming service. Put it on and see if your young children are going to love taking a trip into the neighborhood of make-believe like we did when we were kids. Won't You Be My Neighbor is a great documentary that captures the entire span of Mr. Rogers' career with a thoughtful approach, and I'm going to give it 100% on the entertainment meter. I thought it delivered everything it needed to and more. It covers the good times, it covers the meanings behind his messages, and it doesn't shy away from the controversies. It's very informative, it's emotionally touching, and I thought it was overall very well rounded. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you did, drop it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, leave a comment. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to catch all the new videos. All my social media links are down in the description below. You can visit our official website at silverscreenanalysis.com for all kinds of movie related content, and I'm also proud to announce that our merchandise store is now open on TeePublic. Your best dressed days no longer have to be just weddings and first dates, so swing by there, get some merchandise, and look good all the time. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. I'm Anthony. This is the Silver Screen Analysis, and I'll see you at the movies.